every day in Pakistan, with over 22,000 rape cases reported to police across the country in the past 6 years. 13 women have been murdered in the name of honour every day in Pakistan. And it is the second worst country in the world in terms of gender equality. So, what can Pakistan do to tackle sexual violence against women? That is the question we are asking. If you are on YouTube, you're part of this conversation. The comment section is right there. We would love you to take part in this conversation. So we are going to get started with Ali Gul Pir. He is an actor, he's a comedian, he is a rapper, well known for his social commentary.
What's happening in Pakistan right now is it's not a good thing. Is young kids being raped or women being raped and beheaded. It's scary. I'm a man, I'm still scared. I can't even imagine what women are feeling, and we need to make this right. And who's the culprit? It's the man. It's the man doing all these bad things and all these, and we need to take responsibility.
Helping us navigate this conversation, Aliyah Kamwar Malika, thank you so much for joining us. Aliyah, introduce yourself to the stream audience.
Hi, my name is Aliyah Chakhtai and I'm a producer for Al Jazeera English.
Nice to have you. Kamwar, welcome to the stream. Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Hi, my name is Kawal Ahmed and I'm a community leader in Pakistan as well as a talk show host.
Nice to have you. And Malika, welcome to the stream. Please introduce yourself to our international viewers.
Hi everyone, my name is Malika Bukhari. I'm a PTI member of Parliament and I'm also Parliamentary Secretary for Law and Justice in Pakistan.
Thank you, ladies, all three of you, for joining us. I'm going to say to our audience that we're going to be talking about sexual violence against women. If you have been impacted by sexual violence in any way, I want to let you know so that you can decide whether you want to watch right now or whether you need to move away from the screen. This is important because I'm going to talk about Noor Mukadam. Aliyah, you're going to help us understand this story and why it made news in a country where there are lots of cases of sexual violence against women. Why did Noor's story stand out? What happened to her?
Well, Noor Mukadam's murder happened in the capital of the country, and as well as it being absolutely horrific because she was beheaded after being tortured and murdered. It also happened in a certain part of society which felt for people to be too close to home. We've been hearing about sexual violence against women or general violence against women for years and years. It's been, you have it in local print, you have it in Urdu media, it gets a couple of lines in small boxes in newspapers. But more and more so in past years, there's been a tremendous amount of an effort being made in newsrooms by people and a certain amount of awareness where women more and more are speaking out. And this case has shocked the entire nation because of the brutality of it and just because of how horrific it was.
Malika, were you shocked?
Yes, absolutely. I think the murder of Noor Mukadam was shocking. It was a brutal murder that sent shock waves across Pakistan, and it induced this atmosphere of fear amongst the women and girls of our country. But the state came out with a very strong message. The state authorities, including the police, took very strong action. The culprit, alleged offender, is now in prison. He is being investigated. He is being prosecuted. And the Prime Minister of Pakistan has come out with a very strong, clear message in one of his televised interviews, where he's spoken about how this culprit will not be able to evade the system. I think that's the kind of messaging we require in cases of crimes against women, that the Pakistani state and the government of Pakistan at all times stands by victims of violence.
Let me bring in the Pakistan PM, Imran Khan. This is what he said on a US broadcast, PBS NewsHour, about when he was asked about his thoughts about women and how provocative they are, and if they would ever be the reason why they would be a victim. So he was asked that question quite directly. Why did you say that? He said it was taken out of context, and then he said some more. Take a look.
No matter whatever, how much ever a woman is provocative or whatever she wears, the person who commits rape, he is fully responsible. But you look at the situation in Pakistan even now, I mean, look at the rape cases here, compare it to Western countries. They are minuscule compared to them. Yes, we have our issues, we have certain cultural problems, every nation has that. But that comes with cultural evolution, with education. But as far as a woman's dignity goes, respect, I can say after going all over the world, this society gives more respect and dignity to women.
Kamal, is that an experience that you have in Pakistan? A very respectful society towards women?
I would say, the answer lies when a woman walks on the street. How many women do we see in regular public spaces in Pakistan? How safe are women in their homes? And this answer lies in cases like the ones we've seen recently, where Pavel Javed, the young woman, was burnt by her own mother, her own stepmother, and Kurtalan Baloch, who was murdered by her husband. Statistically, we're near the bottom of the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Index. And 90% of women in Pakistan face domestic violence, yet only 0.4% of them actually go ahead and report it. Because there's shame surrounding reporting a crime against a woman, especially if it's sexual in nature. So it's easy to say that women in Pakistan are respected, but are we really? Do women in Pakistan feel respected? Do they even feel safe? I don't think so. And, our statistics and actual stories of women speak otherwise as well.
I'm going to bring in our YouTube audience here. This is Shamraz. Ali, you go first, and I'm going to put Shamraz's thought to you as well. But Ali, you go first.
Yeah, Malika, I would want to know, this is something that we've all been questioning, is that the domestic violence bill was actually passed over to the Council of Islamic Ideology. And it wasn't passed despite the PTI holding the majority of the National Assembly. Is that something you can talk about? Can you explain to us why that was happened? Why did the domestic violence bill not get passed?
For that very important question. And I'm going to talk about the domestic violence bill. And then I want to come back to statistics and figures about rape and sexual violence in Pakistan, because I think we need to put the record straight on that. In terms of the domestic violence bill, Aliyah, obviously you know that it was passed by the National Assembly. It went to the upper house in the Senate. And in the Senate, it was put to debate, and there was disagreement on the parameters of the bill. And it was a very emotive debate. And it was a very polarized debate on the issue. The Human Rights Minister of Pakistan, Dr. Shireen Mazari, came out, and she actually defended the domestic violence bill very well. Now, the government had a constitutional option. We had a constitutional option to seek input from the Council of Islamic Ideology, which is a constitutional body, on whether any provisions of the domestic violence law violate principles of Sharia, Islamic law.
So, Malika, before we get
before
we get deeper into that, can you tell us what the key to the domestic violence bill will be, and how that will stop more people, more women, from being attacked, from being harassed, from being murdered?
So, Femi, Pakistan has domestic violence laws across all provinces. We have it in Sindh, we have it in Punjab, we have it in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and Islamabad Capital Territory was the only part of Pakistan which did not have a domestic violence bill. Of course, the idea is to criminalize any form of domestic violence, and this bill was not gender specific. It talked about persons beyond being a woman or a man, just a vulnerable person at home who's being subjected to any form of physical, emotional, or economic abuse. So the main impetus behind introducing such legislation is to ensure that women across Pakistan, girls across Pakistan, children across Pakistan, elderly people, anybody who's vulnerable at home is protected by the law. And Pakistan has a very strong legal framework. We have a very good penal code, which provides offences and crimes.
But Malika, it doesn't seem to be working when it doesn't seem to be working when it comes to protecting women. I want to point your attention back here at the back wall. This is a protest, a rally after Noor was murdered. Raise better men, I'm reading here. How many Zahirs would it take to pass that bill? That is the alleged murderer. So on the streets, women are asking for there to be legal action. Kamwal, will that make a difference?
I think that I just wanted to address what Malika said. I think it's actually laughable that our parliament refused to pass the domestic violence bill and instead they referred it to the Council of Islamic Ideology. Now, we must remember that the same council has previously also stated that it's okay for husbands to beat their wives. And that just points at the entire irony of the matter. Why has a bill that is so simple in nature, that's looks to protect women, been referred to a council that has a history of imposing violence against women? I would love to hear Malika's thoughts on this.
Malika, is this a struggle for you as a politician? There are so few female politicians. Is this a huge battle for you? Are you battling gender inequality at the same time as you're trying to get gender equality?
So, Femi, women in Pakistan constitute more than 50% of the population. In Parliament, we make up 20% of women parliamentarians, and we do 33% of the legislation within Parliament. So we have adequate opportunities to represent the women of Pakistan, to legislate, to combat gender inequality, and to bring forth legislation that protects the rights of women and girls. I know we are having a huge debate on the domestic violence law, and I've already explained how the government, because of a polarized debate emerging on the issue, because of different viewpoints coming forth, used its constitutional mandate to send the bill to the Council of Islamic Ideology. And I don't know of any formal precedent in which the Council of Islamic Ideology actually formally stated that women should be beaten or women should be harmed. So I don't recall any such thing. But all I want to say is the government of Pakistan, the Ministry of Law and Justice, has enacted a very important anti-rape law that we're not talking about right now. We're discussing rape, we're discussing sexual violence, but we're not discussing the most important law, which is establishing special courts, which is ensuring that trials get completed in 4 months, which is ensuring that medical legal evidence is done in a better manner, which is ensuring that any evidence which goes to discredit a woman's character is not admissible in court. So all of these things are happening in Pakistan. Okay. And I just want to go back to one point on stats. On statistics, because I think
that's Malika, I'm going to move us along. I hear you. I hear your position. Of course, you are representing the current government, so you are going to be promoting all the things that you feel that you are doing that are effective, and yet we see the number of women who are still facing violence in Pakistan. I'm going to move us on a little bit. Aliyah, allow me to move us on. Benazir Shah is a features editor of GeoTV. And I'm wondering if the issue of sexual violence against women is being treated with due seriousness. Here's Benazir's point. Let's have a look.
In the past couple of weeks ago, a very senior minister, a very senior member of the ruling party addressed a rally in Pakistan with thousands of people attended. And over there, he joked about slapping a female politician who was from a rival political party. And no action was taken against him. There were no consequences. So there needs to be a clear message from the government that misogyny, sexism will not be tolerated within the parliament or outside of the parliament. And that message has still not come across.
Vanessa is being very careful there. She's not mentioning any names. Aliyah, you are nodding your head. I am wondering about the examples being set from the top in Pakistan, from the leadership, from the politicians. Aliyah, you go first.
Yeah, the thing is that, what Malika is saying is very valid, that there's 22% or, roughly about 20 to 30% representation. The Prime Minister Khan's cabinet is 4 women out of 53 people. In order to make things better for women, there needs to be better female representation. Malika was part of a press conference not too long ago with a couple of other MNAs talking about how Prime Minister Khan is the symbol of women empowerment. But don't we need more women representing the country when we are 50% of the country?
Let me bring
I also want to add something to Alia's point.
Yes, Kamwal, go ahead.
We spoke about the Council of Islamic Ideology. How many women are on that council? How many women get the chance to be scholars on that council and contribute to bills such as the domestic violence bill?
Let me bring in some thoughts from our YouTube audience who are also commenting on everything you are saying, guests. Siladoro says, the cases in Pakistan are not minuscule compared to the West. How many do not get reported? Kanwal, quick response to that.
As I mentioned earlier, 90% women are facing domestic violence and 0.4% of them actually report it. And Femi, as you very correctly said, it's also because of the shaming associated around a victim. Pakistan in itself is a very patriarchal society, and domestic violence is something most of us grow up internalizing and normalizing, to the point it becomes something that we as women also justify. And our culture teaches us not to interfere when we witness abuse. So when you think about that, if you see a man beating a wife in front of you within the streets, nobody is going to come and stop them. And as a community leader, I witnessed 6 million conversations between women every single month, much of which are around domestic violence. So on a grassroots level, our media, and then again, our leadership, and then our religious thought leaders also mainstream these patriarchal, violent views. And it has made the common person assume and equate religious piety with gender discrimination. And most importantly, I do want to add here that those who are inflicting abuse upon us, they know they can get away with it, because time and time our authorities have failed to establish, protection or even hold accountable perpetrators of violence against women.
Malika, on YouTube, legislation isn't the solution, implementation is the solution. And may I also add, the anti-rape law hasn't passed yet. So implementation is more of an issue, right? You can have all the laws, you can have all the ideas.
That is something, absolutely. Can I just go back to talking about sexual violence and statistics that we've spoken about in this interview. The two other panelists have talked about rampant increasing sexual violence in Pakistan, but thankfully, Pakistan is not the country with the highest number of cases of reported rape or sexual violence. There are other countries across the globe, and there's a global rise in sexual violence against women. There's a World Health Organization report which says that 1 in 3 women, 30% women globally, have at some point been subjected to sexual violence or physical violence in their lifetime. And then if you look at rape statistics around the world, you will see that countries like USA have a rape rate of 27.3%, and 97% of rapists in USA walk free. The UK has had the lowest number of convictions in rape as we speak.
Malika, but this does not make me feel good. If I was a woman watching in Pakistan, I wouldn't go, oh, okay, so some other women around the world are also getting raped. That would not give me, that would not make me feel... I understand, yeah, I understand. I hear your point, but it doesn't address the problem in Pakistan. You're just sharing it around the world. Let me bring in this...
implementation.
Yeah,
if you want to talk about implementation, I'll go back to it.
I'm ready to move on. Malika, thank you so much. We only have a little bit of time. We've got a lot to pack in. This is a very important person that I want to be part of this conversation. Her name is Shafak. She is a friend of Noor. She was a friend of Noor. And when she spoke to us earlier, this is what she told us. Have a look.
When I heard about what had happened to her friend Noor, I was extremely shocked, and I'm still in trauma. It didn't feel like a reality because you see these things in the news, but for this to happen to someone so close to you has been so devastating. It has not only impacted the friends and family of Noor, but it has affected the entire nation. I believe that the perpetrators, Zahir Jafi, should be given capital punishment, because it is now a time that a precedent must be set for the future, that people cannot get away with these crimes, and that justice is truly served for Noor and for all other victims, because it's a rising rate of femicide in Pakistan.
So Shafak makes a suggestion there about capital punishment. It's something that our audience are also thinking about. Bring the death penalty to every man who uses any form of extreme religious beliefs to torture, maim, injure or kill a woman. Alia, do you think that is a popular sentiment in Pakistan, the death penalty? That's the way to deal with sexual violence against women?
I think everybody's knee-jerk reaction is that death penalty should be implemented as far as Noor Mukadam's case is concerned. But I would go so far to say that has capital punishment for rapists really helped? Zainab, who was raped and murdered and left on a trash pile, her rapist was, he got the death penalty. Has it made a difference? We've had cases of rape in children's rape. And I'll go so far to say that we're talking about femicide in Pakistan, but there is a huge conversation that needs to happen about sexual violence on boys in Pakistan as well. Zainab's rapist and murderer was also somebody who was sexually abused as a child. Where does the cycle end, really? What are we going to talk about restorative justice? Are we going to talk about, if there's other ways to deal with things? Why are there not mass campaigns happening about gender-based violence and just sexual violence and what happens inside seminaries? There was a video that was leaked not too long ago about, he's a very senior politician, who belongs to a prominent party, who's in alliance with the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. What is happening? Why are there no mass campaigns? We've invited Westerners to come for tourism in Pakistan. Why are there not mass campaigns talking to the mass public about sexual violence being a bad thing? Why is there no accountability for that?
I want to bring in one more thought here, and I think this one is a big one, and it's really about how do men and women view themselves in Pakistan. I cannot comment on this, but I'm going to bring in Sadaf Kamwal. She's a supermodel. She's from Pakistan, and she has very firm views on men and women's role. And maybe this will give us a little insight into how do you even address cultural change when young people have very firm beliefs like this one. Let's have a look. Let's have a listen.
Our culture is our husband. I married him, which means I have to pick up his shoes and iron his clothes. I know where all of Shehroz's things are, and what and when he has to eat. I need to know these things because I am his wife, and I am a woman. He doesn't have to know the same about me. This is what I believe, because this is what I've grown up seeing. This feminism that has become a part of our lives, it's because of liberals. They shared the model.
That was a very popular sentiment. That went viral, that whole conversation, and there was a lot of support for that conversation. I am bringing no judgment here, but I am sharing that with our audience so that they have a better view of where the cultural conversation is happening in Pakistan. If I wanted to ask you, in a sentence, guess, because we've talked about this for quite a while now, what would be the one thing that you would prioritise in terms of tackling sexual violence? It is one thing. I will ask Malika, Kamwal, Alia. One thing, ladies. Malika, please go first.
For me, as Parliamentary Secretary for Law and Justice, it would be implementation of the law, enforcement of the law at all levels, and sensitizing our duty bearers, our police force, our prosecution service, our judges to the needs of women and girls of Pakistan, and ensuring that it's done in a more victim-centered manner.
Malika, thank you so much for bringing the perspective from the government. Appreciate you. Kamwal, one thing.
I think it would be sex education and making resources available at a very grassroots level for everybody around sexual violence.
Kamwal, thank you for being in our conversation today. Alia, what would be your priority to address sexual violence against women in Pakistan?
I have to agree with Kamwal. It's sex education and awareness and gender sensitivity training. When it comes to implementing the law, we're talking about the police force, we're talking about law enforcement agencies. They need to understand that filing, a report, women cannot be turned away. There has to be awareness for these things. They have to do better.
Alia, Kamwal, Malika, thank you so much for being in this conversation. I realise that 25 minutes is not even close to being long enough for us to address this, but thank you for helping us unpack the conversation that is happening in Pakistan today. If you're on YouTube, thank you for your comments and your questions. I appreciate you. I will see you next time. Take care, everybody.